For those of you that I don't know, my name is Chris Hanslik. I'm the chairman of BoyarMiller. If you don't know our firm, we're a mid-sized full-service firm in Houston, serving the middle market. Lots of friends and clients I see in the crowd, so thank you for being here and supporting this event. We have a great panel here, also friends and clients on the panel, and I'm going to give them a minute just to introduce themselves, and we'll get started. So, Brad, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm Brad Friels. I have the privilege of serving as chairman and CEO of Midway Companies, which is a real estate development and investment firm here in the Southwest.
I'm Jessica Seff. I am a director of investment banking for Statesman, a middle market investment bank that serves privately held businesses here in Houston and beyond.
Hi, Charlie Jenkins, CEO of Port Houston, and this will be my briefest comment in this presentation.
Very good. Well, to get started, just maybe a current state of the world from where you sit and what you've been seeing. Let's start with you, Jessica, in the middle market, kind of M&A world. What's it been looking like?
Yeah, so I would say it is the tale of two cities. It's the best of times and it's the worst of times. It's the age of wisdom and the age of foolishness. It feels like there are certainly winners and losers. Last year we had our best year ever at Statesman and continue to pace through Q1 of this year. And then Liberation Day happened. Uncertainty impacts business owners in that they may not feel ready to either embark on a big process or a big change, or if they're in the middle of something, whether it's a buyer or a seller, both parties need to feel confident in the future, and all of the uncertainty that followed Liberation Day certainly had an impact on a handful of our deals. We still are going to have a good year, but it's definitely impacted, and I can go into examples later in the discussion, but it's definitely been a little bit rougher than we thought it was going to be going into 2025.
Okay. Charlie, how about you?
Yeah, and I'm going to give two answers. So the job that I have is about stimulating economic development growth, the economy of our region. And so in doing that, there's two parts. There's the public part, the facilities we operate and run, and then there's the private part of the overall Houston that I'll describe a little bit more later. In the public part, we're on a record year. Very strong growth. It's 5% compounded this year, but it's been very challenging because it's been very cyclical. It's not standard. People are trying to bring in low-cost inventory before deadlines that get extended, and we get a huge flood. In July of this year, we were up 22% in 1 month. It almost brought our team to our knees. It was very difficult to grow that quickly when it's almost unexpected. And then August, we were up 1%. That's happened twice this year. Now, it's very interesting because we're in the third cycle of the extension of the tariffs, and it's not happening. Kind of an interesting thing of what that means. But overall, our business is strong, up 5%. The overall port, which is $1 trillion of annual economic impact to the United States and is 19% of Texas GDP, is down 4%. And that is troubling. And by the way, I think you said it well, a tale of two cities. We have segments of the supply chain that are crushing it and segments that are really suffering. But overall, down 4% for the whole port.
All right, thank you. Brad?
I describe it to people, it's kind of like walking across your grandmother's attic floor. You're really worried about where that next step is going to go. And if you're going to go through it, it's just... The real estate industry, all the federal regulator rules that changed have really disrupted things. Interest rates are tied to real estate. I was telling somebody the other day, it doesn't matter really what interest rates are. The volatility is what just kills you because you make decisions based on 3 or 8 or whatever the percentage is, but you expect some stability to that as you go, as you plan. And when you disrupt that quickly, it really affects values. It affects a lot of things. So we're dealing with that. So it's like I said, it's like walking across your grandmother's floor hoping not to fall through. So.
That's a good one. Yeah, y'all feel free to use that analogy after you leave today. So Charlie, I think at dinner last night, someone said it's hard to believe some people live in Houston and don't know we have a port, which I find hard to believe. But those of us that do know about it know it's one of the largest, if not the largest in the country. How do you see the port playing into the competitive advantage for Houston in the near term, over the next 5 years or so, as a business hub?
And I'm going to start from the past. There's a saying that the first Mayor Holcomb of Houston made. It's pretty interesting. The town that built the port, that built the city, that built the region. So if you want to talk about the Houston economy and where it came from an incredible commitment of our forefathers, self-taxing themselves to create the port. The tax rate was 49 times higher than it is today for the port.
Wow.
That's incredible commitment that created the machine of the port, starting with cotton. Then in the early 1900s, it switched to oil, and that's the biggest part of our economy today. But the Med Center, Rice University, you name almost any major Houston establishment, and the funding that created it came from the port economy. So from the past, a huge part of the region's success is related to the vision of creating a port done differently than it's ever been done in the history of the nation. Tom Ball, Jesse Jones, they actually went to Congress very, very frustrated with the federal government's control of the national navigation system, and said, we'll pay for half of the investment to create a port. So our community bought the dredges, gave them to the federal government to build our channel. First federal cost share in the United States. Today, there's no federal investment in any state that isn't having a local sponsor. It might be a DOT, it might be a city, it might be somebody else, but the grit of our port, of our community, of the Texas spirit created it. So now that's the past. Let me go to the forward. And now you know I wasn't lying when I said saying my name's the shortest thing I'll say. It was a true statement. Looking forward, look, there's other dynamics. I'm going to jump forward. We're all familiar with what happened to the U.S. steel industry. But when I read about it, or it's used as an analogy, it's almost always wrong. The U.S. steel industry crushed it. They made a ton of money. There became competition. They didn't reinvest because they had a higher return on invested capital somewhere else. That's called the free market. They invested in other things, building our national economy. And they gave up on steel because they weren't winning and it was too costly for them to be a major player. The port was in a very similar circumstance in the 1990s, in my opinion. When you look at the 1990s, we had fairly old facilities. We were no longer dominant in the world markets in energy and chemicals and the products that we generally make, and even agriculture. And same thing was happening with steel. Our industries were not reinvesting and retooling because they weren't making enough return. They did the free market plan. And then our good friend George Mitchell commercialized fracking in 2008. And it changed our economy completely. It is the single biggest driver to the success of the state and the region, in my opinion. Because what happened is we got low-cost feedstock out of the ground. Our industry started becoming competitive. They had a high enough return to start investing. They put over $1 trillion into the ship channel facilities. That $1 trillion is the state-of-the-art, the best, the most environmental, most effective way to produce the products we make in the world. And now we're dominant in the world, and it's caused incredible growth in Texas. The jobs you hear about, the investments are really tied to that root cause of changing the market. And so, by the way, that is still, we're dominant, we're the highest value, the best value products out in the market today for chemical, as long as we don't screw it up. And that investment will last for another decade or so. We will stay there if we play the cards right. So I would just be very blunt. We are not slowing down as a snowball. It's growing. Congestion and other costs and other challenges will cause some resistance to that. But that tidal wave or snowball going down a big hill is growing.
That's very good. Brad, you mentioned interest rates and the uncertainty, or as long as they stay stable. But as you think about where the real estate development world's going or needs to go in Houston to keep Houston attractive to business and the workforce, what are some of the strategies and things you think need to be thought about and implemented to keep Houston on top?
Well, that's a big question. The real estate industry's post-COVID has really changed. A lot of people talk about working from home and all these things, and will people go back to the office and AI? It's a longer process than that. I remember when I got in the business, you didn't have cell phones. You had to go back to the office to get your messages. Some of you in the room recognize that. And then you had cell phones came, and then you had computers come, and you didn't have to be at your office. You could take your computer home. And in COVID, in my opinion, just fast forward the inevitable. That's when, Teams and Zoom got serious, and people really flooded to that. And it's basically just been a decoupling of our requirement to be at the office. You can accomplish most everything you need to by not being at the office, except the cultural side of business, which is vital. I tell a couple of people from our office are here, they heard me say this a lot of times, we're a work from work environment. And, and because you learn so much more when you're together and you collaborate so much more. But to answer your question, the issues related, I'm going to talk about multifamily or office, and retail and industrial a little bit different. Some of the things that Charlie was mentioning on the industrial side has really pushed the industrial side of Houston a long way. I don't know if a lot of y'all been out to Brookshire lately. You won't recognize it. It looks like the Inland Empire out there, and it's continuing to grow, and there's nothing to stop that, but which is a good thing. But office, it's a world of haves and have-nots. The nice office buildings, fortunately, which we own a lot of, are full. The ones that are older generations, they're going to suffer. And I don't know how you get those out of the market. Maybe some tax credits and things to either encourage you to tear them down or make a change of use. But right now, it's too costly to convert a office to a residential because the rents aren't there to support what it costs to convert it. So we're going to have a lot of ghost buildings for a while, but I think there'll be a way that people will figure out what to do with them and values go down. And one of the things that I love about Houston, it's a non-zone city. So you can convert an office to whatever you want to convert it to that the market's telling you it needs to be. You don't have to go through the government approvals to do that. And I think that's going to allow Houston to recover from this, because this has happened nationally, but I think we'll adapt to it a lot faster than a zone city would that has to go through those approvals.
Yeah, very good. Jessica, so you mentioned a good start to the year, some struggles maybe, but still positive. What are you seeing as far as what you think business owners are going to have to face or do to plan for that exit, given the market uncertainties and the conditions out there?
Yeah, I would say Q2 and Q3 were slow because everybody was trying to figure out what was going on. But now both sellers and buyers are getting comfortable with uncertainty. I think they're realizing, well, we have to make a decision one way or another. So things are definitely picking up. But it definitely behooves you as a business owner to have an investment bank to help you navigate timing, the type of buyers that you'd be looking at, especially in this environment. One thing that has changed as we're evaluating now the much larger amount of prospects that have come in the door in the last month or so is we're doing more due diligence up front. That we always have. We always do due diligence up front before we take on a client. But there are issues now with labor. There are issues with tariff exposure. There are issues that before we would have asked the question, but we wouldn't have dug in as deeply maybe as we do now to really try to understand some of those risks. Because you can have a really nice business, but if something happens on that front and you get all the way down and you're at the aisle with a buyer and there's something that comes out on the labor side where, there's something uncomfortable there, the whole deal could come apart. So that is one big change, is just the level of due diligence we're doing on the front end.
Certainly been a lot in the news about both labor issues and tariffs. So Charlie, I'm kind of interested to know, you think of what you have to do in those challenges. What are some of the challenges you're facing? What are some of the things you're trying to do to overcome the tariff challenges, or maybe the challenge of having good labor?
Well, everything can be broken down to just simple thought. And the supply chain is very, very simple when you break it down. The best value wins. It's as simple as that. Your cost in that link is immaterial. It's the entire chain that everybody cares about, because that's what they have to pay for your service. So there's a clean focus within our group of controlling our link, making sure we're best value, making sure we are low cost, we are low risk, and we're high service. That strengthens our chain. And then we work to influence the nearby chains that we have influence on. And I would say, and I'm skipping the labor side due to other controversies, just to be very blunt and honest, but on the infrastructure side, it is the number one threat to our community for the continued growth. So I'd just like to make a couple foundational comments to help clarify what I'm about to say. We're not just the biggest port in the United States. We are extremely dominant in the United States. The gap between us and number 2 is bigger than U.S. port number 5 all the way down. The gap between us and number 2, which is, by the way, the Mississippi River, which is generally a lot of domestic traffic. This is total waterborne tonnage. It's 92 million tons. Guys, the Port of LA is 57 or 58 million tons, if you want to know how big that is. So we're at a different level than all the other rest of the ports. And we're a victim of our own success. I talked about a really rapid investment starting around 2008, which was just a few years ago, and it's been taking, this entire time. It's still going on. There's still new facilities coming through the pipeline, and there's massive growth. On the container market, where the imports are all consumer goods, and my joking comment to this group is, if we take out the materials that came in a container, everybody's naked sitting on the floor in this room right now. Don't picture that, but just, or think of it very at a simple level. But it's guys, it's the way the world market moves because it's so efficient. But what's unique about Houston is our exports. We are the number one export container market, in my opinion. We are the number one export port and the number one export state in the nation. And we actually fill up the ship both ways. It comes full, it leaves full. So they make a lot of money. Most ports are very, very imbalanced, where they have a whole bunch of imports and very little to shift out. So what that is causing is a massive growth. And now I'm going to talk about containers. And again, this will be my last foundational statement, I hope, as long as he controls me. For 10 years in a row, our container port has been the fastest growing in the United States. We're at 6.5% compounded annual growth 10 years in a row. That's 88% in 10 years. The number 2 container port in the United States for growth is the Port of Savannah. They've grown 40%. So we've grown twice as fast as the second fastest growing port in the United States for containers, and 4 times faster than the top 10. So guys, we are crushing it in creating jobs and economic activity. By the way, our container market is 700,000 jobs and 280 billion annual economic impact by itself. And it will be doubling in the next 8 years. It's almost unstoppable. And the infrastructure that needs to support it is interesting. So I talked about the supply chains and the parts. I like talking the 5 fingers. I have the channel, which is the water coming in, which is in great shape. We just finished Project 11 with private commitment of our community, 1.2 billion, done the fastest in the US history. We have, and on budget, on schedule, which is pretty shocking.
Just so I'm going to interrupt you briefly, control you.
Yeah.
Tell them what Project 11 is.
Project 11 is the 11th expansion of the Houston Ship Channel. When the Houston Ship Channel was first surveyed by the federal government, it was quoted at least 4 feet deep and 72 feet wide. Today, it's a modern port. It's 46.5 feet deep. It's 700 feet wide through the bay. 11 times we've improved it to have capacity of infrastructure to meet market demand for the economy. It just finished. We did it ourselves. We gave it to the federal government instead of them doing it. That's a long story by itself. But Project 12 is already starting. It's a 15-foot deepening. It'll take 10 to 15 years just for the study, and it will prepare us for the future for the supply chain. The next 3 parts are the wharves, the terminals, and the gates that interact with the community. And then the last part of that supply chain that we impact is infrastructure, the transportation. Train and road for all other ports, and for our container port, it's only truck. Our containers only go to Texas. 99% are delivered by truck. Only port like that in the nation, which is hugely important for the Texas economy. TxDOT takes 10 years to build roads. We're growing so fast, the roads are in a very congested state, and we're going to double. And by the way, we do about 1 million trucks in and out per month at Barber's Cut and Bayport.
Wow.
1 million. We're doubling, and the roadway infrastructure is going to have a challenge to keep up. It's our #1 strategic initiative. Yesterday I was with Speaker Burrows. This next week we have about 50 of the state representatives and senators in town with Transportation Advisory Group working on roadway issues to try to make sure our supply chain can handle the growth without much congestion.
Wow. It's a lot. It's a lot. So, Brad, development opportunities, where are you looking? Is it developing new products? Is it looking for existing assets to buy to grow Midway?
Sure.
And where do you see the real opportunities in the real estate market?
Well, that's a great question. And, if we were doing what we were doing 5 years ago, we wouldn't be in business today because it changes that rapidly, unfortunately. But what we've determined, we're a developer by nature, but it's far more economic and you can actually get projects done. We're buying revenue right now. We're not creating revenue. We're not building new buildings hoping to lease them up to create revenue. We're buying structures that we think have value in the marketplace. It's just mismatched and mispriced in the environment. So over the last 23 months, we've probably bought $500 million worth of properties, probably 5 million square feet. And it's properties that owners that got nervous coming out of COVID didn't know if they were going to, how it's going to do, and they just didn't have the intestinal fortitude to see through it. And they just wanted to exit the market, and we were able to buy some properties. City West, we bought the old BMC campus, which is about 2.5 million square feet. We bought a project on Post Oak Central, which we've renamed Central Park Post Oak. But we're converting these to more mixed-use projects where you actually have, City Center is one of our projects where you can go and you can eat, you can do whatever, you park once during the day. And what we noticed, those types of projects during cycles stay full. And because basically people can afford what they want to afford. I learned that a long time ago. You have to just convince them what you have is what they want to afford. But Post Oak, for example, was about 1,200,000 square feet, but it's just strictly office. We're adding about 150,000 feet of retail and soft goods to it. So it'll be a real true walkable environment on Post Oak. And we're already backfilling those spaces. But the point is, we couldn't duplicate that new for what we can buy and add on to it. And the rents in the marketplace, for example, East River is one of our projects, and I'm so excited that Charlie and his team are going to be moving over there. And one of the main reasons I'm excited for it is everything you just said. I know a lot of people just heard that for the first time, but that's what runs our city. Everything happens because of that man down there and his group. And in my opinion, we just need to put a bigger face on Port Houston because everybody needs to know about it because we need to each support it. But anyway, East River is one of our projects, and we built, Charlie's team is going to be moving over there, I think, in March or something?
January.
Paul's going to be ready?
The fact that he was here is a really good sign.
It'll be ready. It's looking great. But we built 2 office buildings over there as an example. We filled both those buildings up through COVID with what's going on in the marketplace. I couldn't reproduce those buildings today if I had to, because the rents that I need to support those, because construction costs have gone up, because interest rates have gone up, because insurance costs have gone up, it doesn't pencil. I need rates to go up so I can afford to do that again. And that's the first time we've ever had a project where we did phase 1 and it was successful. We didn't roll immediately into phase 2. So I was talking to one of our partners the other day, and he said, "What are we going to do?" And I said, "We're going to be patient. We just have to wait it out because it will come back. But you have to wait till the cycle catches up to it. Inflation was just too hard and too fast, and salaries haven't caught up with it, and therefore rents haven't caught up with it. So, but it will." And I was talking to somebody again the other night there. I was telling them this is my 7th cycle in the real estate industry since I got in this business in 1983. And they're each different. But what I can say emphatically is Houston and Texas has always come out better on the backside of a cycle. And I think that's because we slow down, we figure out what we're doing wrong, what we can do better, and then we make those adaptations and we go forward. So I'm bullish coming out of this. I just don't want to coming out is. But I think, in 2 years, I think we'll be back to developing product for people again.
Very good, very good. Jessica, you mentioned you had some examples of things, and I know you talked a little bit about how tariffs and labor costs have impacted valuations, or you're getting deals across the finish line. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so for example, an example of a winner, we have a longtime client that we've supported in accessing capital markets for them, and they are in shipbuilding. And historically, it had been a little more of a challenge since shipbuilding was something that was done internationally and not here. Well, it's a different world today, and there's a lot of folks lining up to want to provide capital for this particular opportunity. Then we have another deal that our client is looking to buy a smaller competitor, but the competitor has not done a great job of managing the volatility in aluminum pricing. And because of that, it's getting tricky to try to figure out how to value something. Are we buying something that's just mismanaged, or can we manage it better? But aluminum pricing related to tariffs and volatility has been a challenge on that one. We'll get something done, but it's causing more delays than should be there. We have another client that they're not exposed to labor, they're not exposed to tariffs in the business themselves. Everything is domestically sourced, manufactured, and sold all within our borders. But we had to put a pause on marketing the business because revenues slowed down in Q2 and Q3 because their customers were uncertain and worried about ordering the packaging that they create for the products that their customers have because of the uncertainty. So, buyers don't want to be catching a falling knife. They need to know that they've hit bottom because of uncertainty and it's coming back up and becoming normal. So that's an example of like second or even third on effects of uncertainty. Additionally, we have one deal that we could close probably tomorrow if the government were open and the Department of Labor could make one little signature on a piece of paper and put that in the drawer and move on and close the deal. So it feels like, getting deals done only happens when all of these things come together, and every additional little piece of uncertainty or challenges either delays it, kills it, or, we just have to wait.
Okay. So stay with you, Jessica. Like we all believe Houston's resilient. We're all here because we love it. But what keeps you up at night? I mean, what are you concerned about that if the train goes off the track or something that, what does it look like?
Yeah, so I love what I do because we work almost exclusively with entrepreneurs or family-owned businesses. What keeps me up at night, you can't help but get emotionally connected and, supportive of your clients. You just want them to be successful, you want to provide value for them, and then to make them very wealthy upon sale or recap or whatever. It's super hard when you see a prospective client that you've been sort of courting, I guess, for years, come in and say, oh my gosh, because of the current situation, I'm wealthy enough, it's fine, but I might just close the door on this business because there's no way for me to figure out sourcing of the materials I need in time and, all of these things. I might just have to close the door. And creative destruction is real. In this case, I don't think it's because of technological changes. It's policy changes that have caused this, which is frustrating. But it's where we might have been able to sell that company 2 years ago. Now we probably couldn't. And, that's tough just from like an individual and personal standpoint. What also keeps me up at night from a macroeconomic standpoint is honestly the debt situation we have with the government. Because even if right now we have a stock bubble or an equity bubble, or who knows, there might be a little froth, I think we can weather a downturn related to consumer and equity markets. But debt, I started my career at Lehman Brothers. So debt can really tank an economy.
And a company.
And a company.
And a
And
company.
so what keeps me up at night is not tomorrow, it's not even 2 years or 3 years, it's 2030 plus or minus. when it's going to get so difficult for the U.S. to be able to maintain its position as the dominant, the dollar strength and the ability to pay our bills and the ability to support our elderly and all of the things that we do, that it's not keeping me up at night, but I can see it, and it's going to start causing nightmares by 2030, I think.
Okay. Brad, how about you? I mean, what is it that you see
honestly,
as
honestly, I sleep really well. Because I just realized a long time ago, God's in control, and you take it from there. But I'm more hopeful. I think the people that are joining our firms recently, the young people like Paul here, they are so much brighter than I was when I was at that age, and I just see our future being so bright because of the young people, and they'll figure out the opportunities. I mean, there's good. On the bounce side, when things are bad, there's opportunity in that. When things are good, there's opportunity in that. You just have to kind of ferret through and try to figure out where you can make a place. And so nothing really bothers me too much. Debt-wise, we're very low. Like the projects I just mentioned we bought them all cash not because we wanted to. There's no debt in the market.
Right.
So
you didn't have a choice.
No, and that's why there were opportunities, because people that normally buy with debt weren't players. And so we were able to buy this stuff, and so we're sitting on, it costs a lot because equity obviously is a lot more expensive than debt, but you don't have to worry about little things. Right. When I hear certain things in the market, I mean, there's 150,000 apartment units in Houston right now. That's in 150,000 apartment units, to give you an idea, if a normal apartment's 150 units, it's a lot of projects. They're underwater. Those are going to have to cycle through our economy because the debt is too high on them. The interest, and a lot of that's happening because interest rates went up and they were capitalized differently. Insurance rates have gone through the roof, and the rents that people pay haven't grown to absorb those things. So we're going to see a little flood through the market, but at the end of the day, it'll be healthy because these projects get right priced. That will allow the rents that are in the market to support them, and it will get healthy again. It's just a cycle we have to go through, and there's going to be a lot of people hurt by it. There's going to be a lot of institutions hurt by it, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen, but that's okay because that provides a whole lot of opportunities if you're on the buy side of that.
Right.
So, it's like you recognize it more in real estate. If you own Exxon and it goes up to $50 and goes back to 40, did you lose $10 or what really happened? Real estate is tangible. You notice it when you lose it, but it has to reset and reprice to be available again. So, I guess I don't worry too much. I used to worry about Aggie football, and then I realized these 18-year-old kids were running my weekend. So I just quit worrying about it. It's anyway, I don't worry about much.
You haven't had a lot to worry about this season so far.
We could still be 7-5 at the end of the year. So
Yeah.
don't get ahead of yourself. Very easily we could be 7.
As long as Thanksgiving goes okay, it's all good.
Yeah, exactly.
So Charlie, how about you? Kind of lots of good things going on as you described, but what are some of the things that you see as challenges or
there are so many things out there, but I think I share a similar trait to probably everybody in this room, and it's a very, very strong competitive spirit. And I think this aligns to what Brad just said, in that it's about opportunities. It's about looking at them. Yeah, if I told you all the things that keep me up at night, it would be here a long, long time. I'm very obsessive. I do it every night. I sit and write notes with the light on when my wife's sleeping, and I'm a little chaotic. But the reality is, and I'm just going to say what Brad said, is for every issue and challenge, there's a solution and there's a way to differentiate and get better. If I had to just break it down into the simplest things, it's this obsessive requirement of continuing the greatness that we have, and how do I do my part to continue it? Guys, it's tough. We have been growing so fast for so long. Every economist 40 years ago said it was impossible, and we've done it. What are we going to do next? What is the secret sauce? How I'm going to continue it on top of all of the daily challenges and tariffs. But I heard you say the word dominance, and I just want to say a stabilizing comment that I think is very helpful. So I'm in DC a lot. I spend a lot of time at the White House. Our team is, our board is. We're highly engaged because we're such a big part of the US economy. And we are a system of self-correction. And sometimes we swing the pendulum pretty far, but the pendulum has weight and it comes back. And you know, some of the throwing of the pendulum or sliding of it has been these enormous swings that when you get into the detail are so catastrophic that it's just shocking. I mean, it's almost unbelievable. But every time we go and we explain it in a way that is clear about them achieving the goals that they're trying to do, deal with the debt service, deal with national dominance, all these huge issues that are critical to all of us, what I'll tell you is there's a response and then there's a correction. And some of the stuff sticks on the wall, some doesn't. But coming back to the word dominance, when this all started, some of the activities would have crushed the US energy industry, which is a major part of our economy. You all know that. And when we explained that, you know, with some table slapping and strong discussion in private, not when you give testimony in front of Congress or UTSR, that's all milquetoast. There was listening, and now there's a National Energy Dominance Council that meets weekly at the White House. The Dominance Council. It is all about how do we protect the things that are biggest in the economy in a strong and smart way, and it is having material impact. I'll tell you, and I'll work to shut this down. The first round of tariffs was going to cost our company $206 million in a check. We bought $138 million worth of cranes pre-tariffs. The tariffs were announced at 179%. You had the Biden 25%, you had the fentanyl, you had Liberation Day, you had the 100% reciprocal, 179%, $206 million we owed in January when our cranes are delivered. That was keeping me up at night. Yeah, it was giving me a lot of stomach acid. We now have it down to 88%. 88 million at 79%. We have a strategy, all of our delegation, Cornyn, Secretary Lutnick, everybody we're working with, we have a strategy to get it back to reasonable. The overall goal of what they're doing, I think, is being achieved. We have to figure out how to do the execution in a smart, sustainable way. And those are the things that are keeping me up at night, because those are very, very rapid. And then you solve them, and then it's just the next one. So
let me ask you a question. When you told them that the impact of the tariffs were 200-something million, did they have any idea that they had put that burden on you, or were they just oblivious to it?
Well, I make a joking comment. A good friend said this the other day in a speech. I'm always one statement away for seeking new employment. So I want to be a little bit careful, but.
No, please do, but you don't even have to answer it because I think you just did.
It's a delicate dance, and we fight to win, and we win, and that's the key of our community.
Yeah, but my sense would be that they had no impact, that they were putting that burden on a public service that was positive for the country. It was just a side effect that they were unaware of. That's what I would hope.
And the way we win that argument, the way we're winning it right now, is we translate it to something they understand. It's the loss of 57,000 jobs.
There you go.
You know, that's what they care about. So there's ways to translate it, and the hard thing is figuring out that very, very simple thing to say that resonates and people get.
Well, thanks for all the hard work you're doing on our behalf.
No kidding.
So let's maybe just talk about what are some of the industries, this is kind of all three of y'all, that where do you see some trends going of some emerging industries that where you think investment makes sense given the age of technology, given all the things we've talked about? What are your thoughts on that, Jessica?
Me? So we love any business that has good margins, good growth opportunities, no customer concentration, a great management team, and if you have all that, we can sell it.
So you don't have many real estate clients.
Yeah, so we're generalists at Statesman, so if you have a good business, we want to talk to you. In terms of industries, there's always, certainly the private equity groups, they're a bit like sheep sometimes. They're chasing different things, whether this time it's, fire and maintenance repair, or it's HVAC something or other. There's, that's always this way or another way, whether it's valuable or not. But I think from the big picture, Houston is in a great place because we're business friendly. We have private equity groups coming down to speak to us all the time, and they're like, we love Texas. Texas it's business friendly, low regulation. We want deals in Texas. So again, if it's a good company and it's in Texas, we could probably sell it.
Yeah.
Brad?
We're spending a lot of time in the medical fringes right now, and the reason why, to give you an idea, I read an article probably 6 months ago, and it shocked me. It said that if you have a newborn today, odds are that child's going to live maybe up to 120 years old. And the logic behind it was over the next 50 years, when that child's probably not going to have any real major health concerns, the technology advances in medicine are going to be so outrageous that they'll probably be able to cure anything that he gets from 50 years on. And then it's just a natural decay at that point. But, we're talking about, the terrorists a second ago. Eli Lilly, who was coming to North Houston building a $6 million plant. That wouldn't be done in the United States had these tariffs not been put in effect. That's going to be a major impact on Houston. And all the little fringe things that happen around there, the medical center is going to continue to grow. And the activity over there and what's happening with AI. And I'm on a couple hospital boards, and it's interesting what we get exposed to about what is happening with AI in the medical field. It's going to change it. And gene therapy, and that is, in Houston is the largest medical center in the world, largest port, largest medical center. Those are two legs of our stool that don't get the attention that oil and gas gets for some reason, but they're probably more important, and I think more important to our future, honestly.
Charlie, how about you? Any trends you see kind of moving forward?
Look, I work really hard to balance the machine, the engine of the port. I want to make sure the cylinder matches the sleeve, matches the carburetor and the fuel tank. And we need all the different parts of it. And what makes this port so great is this symbiotic relationship of all of the industries together. It's the complex. I need general cargo facilities for pipe for the drilling. I need warehouses for storing cotton and distribution of the goods. We need refineries to make products. And so all of these various segments are crucial for the system. And the challenge is some of them will go up and down, and the ones that go down, how do we help them in a way that is advantageous to the health of the machine so that it's got the most horsepower and the least amount of disruption or vibration. I really, really see a bright future, but I see it different for 1,000 different supply chain lines that we have. So my answers get kind of complicated when I start thinking it that way. But the bottom line, the future's bright. We just have to do our part to take care of it and to carry it on. The last story, promise, and then the city of Houston emblem is a rail locomotive. That locomotive, that emblem was chosen 12 years before the first train came to Texas. That just right there symbolizes it all, of the vision, the foresight, the commitment. We're going to do great things. We got to keep that spirit. That's why people want to come here and invest. Keep the spirit, you keep the progress.
Very good. Well, that's a great way to end just the panel discussion. I want to open the floor up to questions. So if you have a question, raise your hand. We're going to bring you a mic so that everyone can hear the question. Any questions out there? Wow. Got one right here, kind of front right, my right.
That's scary.
Wait for the mic. Just
Right here.
Brad, how long did you work on getting the retail portion of City Center sold to Metro National? How long did that take?
How long did that take?
Yeah.
It's a little longer story than that. When we developed City Center, it's actually about 8 different partnerships. We have the hotel, we have the retail, we have the office. The retail under the office is owned separately than the retail and the rest. And when we first put it together, Michigan State Pension Fund was our partner because we wanted a long-term partner because we're generally long-term owners. And about 5 years ago, they wanted to exit. And so we teamed up with another group to come in and take them out, and we stayed in an advisory role more than anything. But we performed the business plan, it worked. There was a lot of value created in the last 5 years. And so that group was ready to exit. And this is a little longer answer than you asked for, but it's important. There was an option to sell to people that were just like the people that we previously capitalized with, but we'd be on this train every 3 to 5 years trying to keep something steady. And if you look down the street, Metro National, who owns Memorial City since 1954, have been great stewards of that project. And a lot of people may think differently, but all I'll tell you this is, if you look at every major mall in this city, from Gulfgate to Sharpstown to Westwood to Willowbrook, when there's a cycle, and Houston goes through cycles, institutional owners sometimes run to the doors. And I'd argue that the values in Memorial have been maintained and grown because they had stability in the ownership of Memorial City. And so when they had an interest in looking at it, we were excited because that portion that they bought, the retail, will be in probably the same hands for the next 50 years, which I think is great stewardship for that project. So I was excited about it, needless to say.
I've got a question for Charlie Jenkins. Charlie, you mentioned truck traffic coming into the port, how that's grown. What's the future from your perspective on rail to the port?
Well, first off, we are the largest rail complex in the United States. So we have enormous rail. It's moving lots and lots of products. It doesn't move containers in our market. So I was speaking specifically of the container field. There is a huge benefit, let me reframe. All cargo is good, but there's different classes of cargo. With my responsibility being economic development and job creation, I like the cargo that handles and creates the most economic development and jobs. So there's different tiers of cargo. Frankly, I do not like raw energy molecules. It's dirt cheap. It's less than water, oil, LNG, all of these products that are crucial to us. We have a small amount in the Port of Houston. It's because we haven't allowed it to come in because our space is too valuable for raw energy products of low value. By the way, what we do like is LPGs and the refined natural gases and the other products because there's enormous stimulus in economic activity. So that's what we try to encourage. When I think of intermodal in your question, I'm going to tell you it's the safety net because the truck value is so high. Think of it as two sides of a coin from economic development. I mentioned the container terminal economic development right now is $280 billion a year. There's two sides of that coin. We have both sides. We have the side of the port and all the activity coming off the ship and all that work, and then we have all the distribution in Texas because it's truck. So we get both sides of the coin. If it's intermodal, takes the same amount of space, the same amount of effort, less roadways, but only get half the coin, $140 million. Because it's going to Chicago, Chicago gets the other 140 million, or it's going to Kansas City or Denver or wherever else we're shipping to. So from a business perspective, when you're looking at jobs as being your value proposition, intermodal isn't the answer unless you have capacity to grow enough to handle it. We're growing 4 times faster than the top 10 U.S. container ports. I don't want to grow any faster, and every bit of growth we're doing has got both sides of that coin. So I'm not a big encouragement of it. And by the way, I have lots of rail friends. We own the PTRA railroad in the port. I work a lot with railroads. Railroads have a huge value, and they're also my complete safety net. Because as soon as our truck traffic slows, which means regional growth is slowing, we'll start pushing and getting more and more intermodal. We'll get the volumes through the port. We'll get less economic activity, but some's better than none. And we'll start pushing it to all these other places like every other port does. If I was TxDOT, I'd think of it a hell of a lot different because I am messing with them in a really hard way. They take 10 years to build a road. I can build a new dock and a new terminal in 2 years and just flood their roadways, and they're having a very hard time keeping up. That's their problem. The reason we're pushing on the state is to get that changed. But the trucks, in my view, are good for my purpose. When I drive to work and I drive through all the trucks, I wear branded shirts, which I do most days, to restaurants down in Clear Lake. I get stopped 3 times going to my table asking me about traffic. I hate that part, but then I say, well, you know why you have a job? And then I feel good and sit down.
That's great.
Any other questions? Oh, here in the middle. Are you sure he's on the guest list?
It's my father. I took his name tag. If you were going to give advice to a kid going to college about a direction they should head for their career, what would each of you say?
Wow. Well, let me preface. I enjoy real estate because I am passionate about it and I love it. So if you have a passion for it, go chase that and do it because it's still a good industry. I'm not sure I would advise somebody to go into it today if they were just going to college. Where I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunities, what Jessica's working on, the number of companies that are going to change hands that are in my generation's deal and the opportunity for those people to buy businesses and grow and control their own future, I think is just enormous. And, I'd almost say, look for an opportunity where you can buy something and build on it and be your own boss on it. I think that's right advice.
I think I have 2 answers for that. I think if the student is somebody who really loves learning and school and that sort of thing, I was an econ major. It really opened my eyes to how things work. And then combining that with something else, whether it be history or philosophy or mathematics or something like that, to have a really well-rounded brain that then you're able to use all of the new technological tools that are coming so that you're effectively a superpower player on a team that you don't even know what it exists yet because the job isn't necessarily, it doesn't exist today. But you're really bright, you can use these tools and plug yourself in. The other side, because that involves a lot of reading and college and maybe master's degree or doing your CFA charter or getting your CPA or all of those things. The other one I would say, start a business. America is an amazing place to start a business. And if you don't love the college route, talk to folks like the ones in this room and hear about all the different kinds of businesses that owners have and how they built it and what's changing. I've talked to a couple interns that have come in and worked for Statesman, and they talk about how their brother started a business at 16 and it's growing and doing well. I mean, that's cool. So I think those would maybe be the 2 paths.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little different on it. I think we all probably have a passion for the future in our youth. We've all had what we've gotten, the benefits, the encouragement, the mentorship. We all owe that payback, and I know I do a lot of it, and I know most of you probably do. And I'm asked that question a lot. And first, I'm going to do it from the what I'll just call the white-collar perspective of find your passion, do your job, do it well, and then seek more. Most people fail from dilution, and they get beyond their capacity, and then they have mediocrity. If you do your job, do it well, promote your team, all of those things, you will find passion, and you will have great success. So that's my short answer for the white collar. But in today's world, and in my industry, in the industries I support, the blue collar perspective is also fascinating. And we have a very big, actually we start in middle school and then to high school program for development in the maritime economy. And I'll give you 2 stories really quick as an analogy because they're pretty amazing. One, Austin High School, disadvantaged. We have a graduate from a very disadvantaged situation compared to probably what most of us had in this room that graduated high school through the program that we sponsored, Maritime Education, that then was hired by Kirby Corporation, a good Houston company in the barge industry. Today, that gentleman, and I think it's 6 years later, is captain of a ship called a barge called the Green Diamond, the Kirby crown jewel in their crown, making well into six figures with a blue-collar background. We have crane techs that we hire. I have another graduate that is just starting out, graduated last year from high school, did very well, also from a disadvantaged situation. And we have hired that person into an apprenticeship program. In 5 years, that person will be well into six figures plus overtime if he makes it. And the drive, the commitment, the seeing the future and finding something with growth. I'll tell you, I could sit here and spout these blue collar stories where an awful lot of graduates that are trying for white collar wish they have, and they don't have to sit in an office like we all do, and they get to do all this outdoor stuff or ride around on ships or tugs or whatever they're doing. So it's very dependent upon the person and what they're seeking. So I want to advise what helps them, not my experience particularly.
Great. Anything else? No? Okay. Well, I want to first thank the three of you for taking the time to be here today, share your thoughts and your experiences, and not going so far to get unemployed. And I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your day. I know you're all busy, and being here means a lot to us, and I hope you found some value out of this that you can take back to your business and think about where you're going into the future. So before we break, the last thing I want you to do is join me in wishing my partner, Gary Miller, happy birthday. Happy birthday, Gary.
We gonna sing?
Jessica's going to sing happy birthday later.
Don't make me sing, I will.
Like Marilyn Monroe.
So, all right. Well, thank y'all all again. Have a good day, and we hope to see you soon.